I was standing on the terrace of the house I had paid for, clutching homemade pan dulce against my chest like armor, when my daughter-in-law cracked open the door. Not wide enough to welcome me in, just wide enough to let the rejection spill out. The aroma of dinner I'd been invited to, roasted polo asado with herbs, my son's favorite since he was 7, drifted into the cool October evening, mocking me. Grace's smile was thin, stretched tight across her face like canvas pulled too taut. The kind of smile you give to solicitors you're trying to dismiss politely. "Oh, Ariana," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper, though there was no one else on this pristine Pasadena street to overhear. "I think Kyle forgot to mention. Tonight's really not ideal for you to join us." I blinked, my hands beginning to tremble. Not from the autumn chill, but from a sudden sharp instinct that something terrible was unfolding. "But Kyle invited me," I said, hating how small my voice sounded. 7 o'clock sharp. He said it was seen a familiar family dinner. Before Grace could respond, my son appeared behind her in the doorway. My Kyle. The boy I had raised alone after his father died. The man whose law school tuition had drained my retirement account. The man wearing the Tag Heuer watch I'd bought him for his 38th birthday, gleaming silver on his wrist. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He stared at the imported Italian tile beneath his feet, then at the pristine white wall, then somewhere past my left shoulder into the gathering darkness. "Mama," he started, and the tone formal, distant, using Spanish only as obligation, made my stomach clench. "We're keeping tonight professional. Just partners from the firm and their spouses. You might feel out of place." Out of place. The words hung in the evening air, heavy and poisonous as smog over the Los Angeles basin. Out of place in the home I had subsidized. With the son whose entire life I had funded for 20 years, I looked down at the pan dulce in my hands, wrapped in wax paper, still warm from my oven in East L.A. Mexican sweetbread made the way my mother taught me. Suddenly it felt absurd. A peasant's offering at a king's banquet. Through the half-open door, I caught a glimpse of their dining room. The table was set with expensive china, not the everyday dishes, but the Wedgwood set Grace had mentioned cost $3,000. I recognized the bottles of wine the labels turned just so. And the music playing softly in the background wasn't mariachi or ranchera like we used to play at family gatherings. It was smooth jazz, sophisticated, Anglo. Grace smoothed the front of her silk blouse, cream-colored, probably Armani, definitely more than my monthly grocery budget. Her yoga-sculpted arms were tan from her twice-weekly sessions at the country club. The country club I paid the membership for. "It's just better if you skip this one, Ariana," she said, my name in her mouth sounding like something distasteful. "You understand how image works in Kyle's profession, don't you?" She paused, and her next words landed like stones in my chest. "Honestly, you should learn to live a simpler lifestyle so we can focus on building our future. We need the space tonight for people who matter to Kyle's career." Live a simpler lifestyle. The audacity of it stole my breath. They wanted me to live more simply, yet here I stood on a terrace I had helped purchase, wearing a coat I'd owned for 12 years, while they prepared to entertain guests with money that flowed from my accounts like water from an endless fountain. They didn't want me to live simply. They wanted to live extravagantly at my expense, and they wanted me invisible while they did it. I saw it then with brutal clarity. Past Grace's shoulder, I could see into their home. Fresh flowers in crystal vases, the weekly arrangement service I paid for. Artwork on the walls purchased with the home decoration allowance they'd asked for last Christmas. Through the archway to the living room, I glimpsed the leather sectional sofa. $5,000. My money. And there on the wall behind their dining table hung a large family photograph. Kyle and Grace on their 5th anniversary trip to Cabo. Sophia, my granddaughter, sandwiched between them, all three dressed in white linen against a sunset backdrop. Professional photography. Professionally framed. I wasn't in it. I had paid for that trip, a business expense Grace had assured me was tax-deductible, and I wasn't in a single photograph. "I thought I was family," I whispered. Kyle finally looked at me then. His eyes, my late husband Roberto's eyes, dark and deep, met mine for just a second before sliding away again. "You are Mama, but tonight is about networking, about advancement, you understand?" No, I didn't understand. Or perhaps I understood too well. I was family when they needed down payments, family when private school tuition came due, family when the Mercedes needed maintenance, or when Grace's Botox appointments weren't covered by insurance. But I wasn't family when it mattered. Not when it came to respect. Not when it came to being seen. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. His hair was cut in that expensive, precisely tousled style that cost $200 at a salon in Beverly Hills. His shirt was custom tailored. His shoes were Italian leather. He was $42,000 of law school debt that I had paid. He was $180,000 of accumulated help over the years. He was my child, my only child, and he was closing the door in my face. "Okay," I said quietly. The word came out steady, but inside something was crumbling. "You two enjoy your evening." I turned and walked down the path, flagstone pavers I had helped install 3 summers ago, bending my aging knees to help save them the labor costs. The motion sensor light clicked off before I'd even reached my car, plunging me into darkness. I stood beside my 15-year-old Honda Civic parked on the street because their 3-car garage held the Mercedes, the BMW, and Grace's yoga equipment. I looked back at the house. Every window glowed warm and golden. Inside I could see Grace moving through the kitchen, her laugh carrying out into the night. The house looked like something from a magazine. Perfect, polished, paid for by the old Mexican woman they'd just turned away. I placed the pan dulce on the passenger seat and sat in the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel with both hands. That's when the tears came. Hot and burning, they streaked down my face, blurring the dashboard lights into watery starbursts. Have you ever realized that the people you love most don't love you back? Not really. They love what you provide. They love the security, the safety net, the endless well of resources. But they don't love you. It's a realization that cracks your heart in a way that can never be fully mended. It splits you open and leaves you hollow. I drove home slowly, taking surface streets instead of the freeway. East LA looked different as I crossed back into it. Smaller, more worn. My neighborhood wasn't Pasadena with its perfect lawns and towering palms. It was chain-link fences and apartment buildings with laundry hanging on balconies. It was the bakery on the corner with hand-painted signs and the mercado where everyone knew my name. It was real. My house, a small 2-bedroom bungalow my husband and I had bought 40 years ago, sat dark and quiet. The paint was peeling near the roofline. The fence needed mending. The garden was overgrown because I spent my weekends driving to Pasadena to help with Sophia's homework instead of tending my own roses. I sat in my car in the driveway for a long time looking at my house. Modest, humble, mine. When I finally went inside, I didn't turn on the lights. I walked straight to the kitchen and set the pan dulce on the counter. It had gone cold. I sat at my small Formica table, the same table where Kyle had done his homework, where Roberto and I had shared morning coffee, where I had cried when the cancer took him 5 years ago, and I thought about that word. Uncomfortable. They were worried I would make their guests uncomfortable. They were worried my clothes, my accent, my very presence would embarrass them in front of people who mattered. Well, I thought feeling something hard and cold crystallizing in my chest. Perhaps it was time they learned what uncomfortable really felt like. The next morning, I woke at 5:30 the way I had every day since I was 14 years old and started working in my mother's alteration shop. Usually, my mornings were filled with worry about them. Had Kyle paid the car insurance? Did Grace remember Sophia's dentist appointment? Did they need money for the landscaping service? But today, the worry was gone, replaced by something sharper, clearer. Purpose. I made coffee, not the expensive organic kind Grace insisted on, and sat at my table with the folder I'd been avoiding for months. The one I kept in the drawer that stuck like the drawer itself was trying to protect me from the truth inside. The label on the folder read Family Expenses. Such a gentle name for what it contained. It should have been labeled The Price of Being Invisible. I opened it and began to count. The first page was the mortgage payment. $4,200 a month automatically deducted from my savings account. I remembered when Kyle and Grace had found that house. An investment in our future, Mama, Kyle had said. Property values in Pasadena only go up. Think of Sophia's education opportunities in this district. What he hadn't mentioned was that his income, impressive as it was for a junior partner, went almost entirely to maintaining their lifestyle. The actual necessities, those fell to me. The second page was the cars. 2 lease payments. The Mercedes GLE for Grace. I need something safe for Sophia, she'd insisted. The BMW 5 Series for Kyle. Clients judge you by what you drive, mama. It's unfortunate, but it's reality. Together $1,400 per month. Both in my name because their debt-to-income ratio was too high. Too many credit cards. Too many investments in Grace's influencer career that never quite paid off. Then came the smaller things. The death by 1,000 cuts. Marlborough school tuition for Sophia, $45,000 per year, divided into monthly payments. Elite education. The best. Grace had shown me the glossy brochure with girls in plaid skirts playing lacrosse. Country club membership, $800 per month. Essential for networking. Grace's beauty maintenance, $1,200 per month. Botox fillers, laser treatments, the works. I have to look good for my Instagram followers. Personal trainer, $400 per month. Grocery delivery from Eriwan Market, $800 per month. We can't compromise on organic Ariana. Think of Sophia's health. Streaming services, Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, Disney Plus, Apple TV plus Spotify Premium, $170 combined. Landscaping service, $300 per month, twice weekly. House cleaner, $600 per month, 3 times per week. Kyle's golf membership, $250 per month. Wine club subscription, $150 per month. Sophia's enrichment activities, piano lessons, tennis coach, art classes, combined $700 per month. I ran my finger down the columns, my heartbeat slowing into a heavy, deliberate rhythm. The pages rustled beneath my trembling hands. Bank statements, credit card bills, direct debit authorizations. Each one bore my signature, my account numbers, my financial life bleeding out onto paper. At the bottom of the last page, I wrote the total. 147 recurring payments. Some monthly, some quarterly, some annual. All flowing from my accounts into their lives like transfusions keeping a dying patient alive. The grand total made me gasp. $12,800 per month. Over the past 5 years since Roberto died, and I'd foolishly thought supporting Kyle's family would fill the emptiness, I had transferred approximately $340,000 to sustain their lifestyle. I thought about Grace's words. You should live a simpler lifestyle. I looked around my kitchen. The laminate countertops were cracked and peeling at the edges where water had seeped in over decades. My refrigerator was 22 years old, humming loudly like it might give up any day. I darned my own socks. I bought generic medications. I clipped coupons for tea and waited for sales at the grocery store to buy chicken. I had been living simply for years, for decades, so they could live like royalty. A wave of nausea rolled through me, followed immediately by something hotter. Rage. It wasn't the money, really. A mother gives what she has. A mother sacrifices. My own mother had worked 3 jobs to keep us fed after my father left. I understood sacrifice. But it was the contempt, the casual cruelty of it. They took the money with one hand while pushing me away with the other. They believed this lifestyle, the cars, the house, the clubs, was their achievement. They'd forgotten who built the floor they were standing on. They'd forgotten I existed except as a resource. I closed the folder carefully. The sound was soft, just paper meeting paper, but in the quiet of my kitchen it sounded like a gavel falling. I knew what I had to do. But I also knew that once I started, there would be no going back. This wasn't punishment. Punishment is temporary, a lesson taught and then forgiven. This was an eviction. I was evicting them from the Bank of Mama. My phone rang. I looked at the screen. Kyle. For one foolish second, my heart leaped. Maybe he was calling to apologize. Maybe he'd realized in the sober light of morning how cruel they'd been. Maybe I answered. Buenos dias, mijo. Hey, Mom? His voice was rushed, distracted. No greeting, no warmth. Quick question, I think the country club payment bounced or something. They left a voicemail about updating the card on file. Can you call them? I'm slammed today and Grace is at a yoga retreat. A pause. Also, the landscapers are coming Friday and I think that card might be expired too. You should probably just update everything. No mention of last night. No acknowledgement of the door shut in my face. Just demands. Just the assumption that I was his personal secretary and ATM in one convenient package. My hand tightened around the phone until my knuckles turned white. I'll look into it, I said, my voice steady, revealing nothing of the storm building inside me. Great, thanks. Gotta run. Partnership meeting in 5. He hung up without saying goodbye. I sat listening to the dial tone, that empty electronic hum filling my ear. I'll look into it. Oh, I would look into it all right. I stood up, grabbed my purse, a worn leather bag Roberto had bought me for our 20th anniversary, and checked the time. 8:15. The bank opened in 15 minutes. I arrived at Bank of America just as Patricia Ruiz, the branch manager, was unlocking the door. Patricia and I had known each other for 30 years. Her mother and I had worked together at the garment factory in the 80s. Her daughter had gone to school with Kyle. "Ariana," she said warmly, holding the door. "You're here early. Coffee's not even ready yet." "I need to make some changes, Patricia," I said, following her inside. "Significant ones." Something in my voice made her pause. She studied my face, and I watched her expression shift from friendly to professional with an undercurrent of concern. "Come to my office." We walked past the teller stations through the carpeted corridor into her glass-walled office overlooking the lobby. She closed the door and gestured to a chair. I sat down, placed my folder on her desk. "What's going on, amiga?" she asked gently. "I need to cancel all automatic transfers to my son's accounts," I said. "Every single one. Mortgage payments, utility payments, credit cards, insurance premiums, all of it." Patricia's eyes widened. She reached for the folder I'd pushed toward her, opened it, and began scanning the pages. Her expression cycled through shock, disbelief, and finally a grim understanding. "Ariana," she said carefully, this is over 100 recurring payments. Are you absolutely certain this will result in immediate service interruptions for them? Their mortgage, their vehicles, their—" "I know exactly what it will do," I interrupted. "I have the list right here. I've highlighted everything that needs to stop. Today. Effective immediately." Patricia looked at the highlighted lines page after page of yellow marker and then looked back at me. I saw recognition in her eyes. We were both women of a certain age. We both knew what it looked like when a woman had given until she was hollowed out, when sacrifice turned into exploitation. She didn't ask for details. She didn't try to talk me out of it. She simply nodded. "There's more," I added, pulling out another document from my purse papers I'd prepared last night instead of sleeping. "I need to revoke Kyle's power of attorney, and I want to change the beneficiary on my life insurance policy from him to my granddaughter Sophia." The silence in the office was profound. This was the nuclear option. This was severing the cord in a way that couldn't be retied with apologies or promises. Patricia exhaled slowly. "We can do that. It'll require some paperwork and a notary. I can have someone here within the hour." "I'll wait," I said. For the next 2 hours, I sat in that office signing papers. Patricia brought me coffee, real coffee, not the instant kind I made at home, and worked quietly, efficiently, printing out forms, marking places for my signature, explaining what each document meant in her gentle professional voice. With every signature, I felt lighter. It was a physical sensation, like setting down a boulder I'd been carrying up a mountainside. Why had I carried it for so long? Because I thought it was love? Or because I was afraid that if I put it down, they would abandon me completely? Well, they had already abandoned me. They'd uninvited me from dinner, so what was I paying for? By the time I left the bank, it was nearly noon. The sun was bright overhead, the October air warm and clear, one of those perfect Los Angeles days where the smog lifts and you can see the San Gabriel Mountains in the distance. I walked down the street to the small Mexican bakery on the corner, the one I'd been going to for 40 years, and bought myself a concha and a café de olla with cinnamon. I sat at one of the little metal tables outside and watched the world go by. A young mother pushed a stroller. 2 elderly men argued good-naturedly in Spanish about football. Life, ordinary and real, flowed around me. I took a bite of the sweet bread and felt something unfamiliar. Lightness, freedom, a strange giddy sensation in my chest. I wondered how long it would take for them to notice. It didn't take long. The first text arrived at 6:45 that evening, just as I was settling into my armchair, with a book. A murder mystery I'd been wanting to read for months, but never had time for. "Grace Ariana Netflix isn't working. Says payment declined. Did you get a new card or something?" I looked at the message. Took a sip of my tea. The book was good, a detective in Barcelona solving crimes. I returned to reading. 20 minutes later, Kyle Mom got a notification that the electric bill is overdue. "Can you handle this? ASAP. Don't want the power cut. Handle this ASAP. Not are you okay? Not is something wrong? Just fix it. Just make the problem go away." I set my phone face down on the side table and continued reading. By 9 o'clock, my phone had buzzed 17 times. I didn't look at it once. I went to bed early, climbed under my worn quilt, hand-stitched by my mother before she died, and slept better than I had in 5 years. The next morning, the storm broke. I was in my garden pruning the roses I'd neglected for months. The morning air was cool dew still clinging to the leaves. I wore my old gardening gloves, the ones with holes in 3 fingers. I was thinking about maybe planting some vegetables in the spring. Tomatoes, perhaps. Cilantro, things I could use. My phone started vibrating in my pocket like a trapped animal. I pulled it out. 14 missed calls. 7 from Kyle, 5 from Grace, 2 from a number I didn't recognize. A cascade of text messages scrolled across the screen. Kyle, Mom, answer the phone. Kyle, the mortgage payment bounced. The bank called. They're saying the account is closed. Grace, what is happening? Car payment declined. Insurance declined. The country club called and said our membership is terminated for non-payment. Kyle, this isn't funny. Call me right now. Grace, Spotify, Netflix. Hulu all canceled. Ariana, I swear to God, what is going on? Kyle, Mom, I have a partner meeting at the club today. I just got humiliated. Call me. I looked at the messages, at the desperate capital letters, at the panic seeping through the screen, and I felt nothing. No guilt, no urge to fix it, just a calm, clear certainty that I had done the right thing. I put the phone back in my pocket and clipped another dead bloom from the rose bush. My mother used to say, La poda es necesaria para el crecimiento. Pruning is necessary for growth. You have to cut back the dead weight so the plant can thrive. I was just pruning. I went inside, washed my hands, made myself lunch. As I was eating leftover arroz con pollo, much better than anything from Erejon, I heard a car screech into my driveway. I didn't need to look out the window to know who it was. The footsteps on my porch were heavy, angry. The doorknob rattled, then pounding. Mom, open this door. I took another bite of chicken, chewed, slowly swallowed. I stood up, walked calmly to the door, and opened it. Kyle stood there, his face flushed red, his hair usually perfectly styled, disheveled. He looked like a man whose world had just tilted violently on its axis. Grace stood behind him, her yoga outfit rumpled, her makeup smeared. Her eyes were wild. What? Kyle said, his voice shaking with barely controlled fury. Did you do? I stepped aside. Come in. Would you like some lunch? I don't want lunch, he shouted, pushing past me into my small living room. I want to know why the bank said you closed all the accounts. The mortgage, the cars, the credit cards. Everything. I closed the door quietly and turned to face them. I didn't close the accounts, mijo. I simply stopped paying into them. You can't do that, Grace shrieked. Do you know what you've done? The Mercedes is being repossessed. Our credit scores are destroyed. The school called about Sophia's tuition. Then I suggest you write them a check, I said calmly. We don't have that kind of money just sitting around. Kyle's voice cracked. You know that we rely on your help. And that, I said, feeling my own voice harden, is the problem. I walked to my bookshelf and pulled out the folder, the one I'd shown Patricia. I opened it and held it out to them. 147 recurring payments, I said. $12,800 per month for 5 years. That's $340,000, Kyle. Do you know how much money that is? He stared at the pages, his mouth opening and closing. That's what I earned working in a factory for 15 years, I continued. That's more than your father and I lived on during the first 10 years of our marriage. That's my retirement, my security, my dignity. And you took it without a second thought. It's family money, Kyle argued weakly. Dad wanted us to be taken care of. Your father, I said, and my voice turned cold, wanted you to be a man. He wanted you to be independent, responsible, capable. If he could see you now, 42 years old, earning 6 figures and still sucking at your mother's tit while turning her away from your door because she's not elevated enough, he would be ashamed. The word hung in the air like smoke. Ashamed. Kyle flinched as if I'd struck him. Grace's face went pale. You're ruining us, Kyle whispered. We'll lose everything. No, I said. I'm saving you. Because right now you're not a man, Kyle. You're a parasite. And I let you be one. That's my fault, but I'm correcting it today. Kyle stared at me like I was a stranger. Perhaps I was. Perhaps the mother he knew, the one who said yes to everything, who opened her wallet before he even finished asking, had died on that Pasadena doorstep 2 nights ago. "You can't be serious," he said, his voice dropping to a hoarse whisper. "Mom, please, just fix this. We can talk about boundaries or whatever, but you have to fix this first." "No," I said simply. Grace made a sound half sob, half gasp. "You're being cruel. What about Sophia? Are you really going to punish your granddaughter because you're mad at us?" That struck a nerve, and she saw it. Her eyes lit up, predatory, sensing weakness. "Sophia didn't do anything wrong," Grace pressed. "She loves you, Ariana, and you're going to rip her out of her school away from her friends, make her suffer because of your pride." I looked at Grace, really looked at her, at the Lululemon leggings that cost $120, at the highlights in her hair that required monthly maintenance at $250 a session, at the Michael Kors bag on her shoulder, at the woman who had told me less than 48 hours ago that I should live more simply. "Sophia is welcome in my home anytime," I said quietly. "I will make her tamales. I will help her with her homework. I will love her with everything I have, but I will not pay $45,000 a year so she can play lacrosse with the daughters of millionaires while you tell me I'm too ethnic to sit at your table." "I never said ethnic," Grace protested. "You didn't have to." I turned to Kyle. "Your wife is right about one thing. This is about Sophia. I want her to have a grandmother with dignity, a grandmother who knows her own worth. That lesson is worth more than any private school." Kyle's face cycled through emotions: anger, panic, desperation. Finally, he landed on manipulation. His shoulders slumped. His voice went soft, pleading. "Mom, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry about the dinner. Grace is sorry too. We made a mistake, but this is too much. You're destroying our lives over one bad night." "One bad night." I felt something crack open inside me. "Kyle, do you know when the last time you invited me to dinner was before last night?" He blinked, confused by the question. 8 months ago, I answered for him. March 15th, Sophia's school thing. And I sat in the car for an hour waiting because you forgot to tell me it was canceled. You didn't call, you didn't text. I sat there like a fool until another parent told me everyone had gone home. I was busy. Do you know when you last asked me how I was doing?" I continued. "Really asked, not as a formality before asking for money." Silence. "Do you know where I was on my birthday last year?" More silence. "Alone," I said. "In this house, watching television. You sent a text at 11 p.m. 'Happy birthday, Mom. Crazy day talk soon.' That was it." Kyle's face had gone pale. You didn't think about it," I finished. "Because I'm not a person to you anymore, mijo. I'm a resource. I'm the bank that never closes. The ATM that never runs out. And the worst part, I let you treat me that way. I taught you that my love could be bought with your neglect, and my money could buy your presence." Grace was crying now, loud, ugly sobs. But I'd seen her cry before. I'd seen her cry when she wanted a new handbag, when she wanted the house remodel, when she wanted the trip to Paris. Grace's tears were currency, and I was no longer accepting them. "Get out," I said, not unkindly but firmly. "Mom, please, get out." I walked to the door and opened it. "When you're ready to have a real conversation, not a negotiation, not a manipulation, but a real conversation where you see me as your mother instead of your bank, my door will be open. Until then, you need to leave." Kyle stood frozen, his mouth opening and closing like a fish drowning in air. Grace grabbed his arm, her perfectly manicured nails digging into his sleeve. "Come on," she hissed. "She's insane. We'll call a lawyer. We'll get her declared incompetent. She's clearly having some kind of senile episode." I laughed, actually laughed. It came bubbling up from my chest, rich and genuine and surprising even to me. "Oh, Grace," I said, still smiling. "You really don't know who you're dealing with, do you? You think because I hem pants and make sweet bread that I'm stupid. I managed the books for Roberto's construction company for 30 years. I know exactly what I'm doing. And if you try to drag me into court, I will bring every receipt, every bank statement, every text message where you asked for money. Do you want a judge to see that I paid for your Brazilian waxes, your spiritual wellness consultant, that I funded your business trip to Paris that you tagged on Instagram as a romantic getaway?" Grace's face went white. "I didn't think so," I said. "Now get out of my house." They left. Kyle walked like a zombie, stunned and silent. Grace was still crying, but quieter now, shocked into submission. I closed the door behind them and locked it, the deadbolt sliding home with a satisfying click. I leaned against the door, my heart pounding, and waited for the guilt to come, for the doubt, for the voice that would say I was a terrible mother. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt powerful, strong, whole. The silence in my house after they left was heavy, but it wasn't lonely. It was the silence of a battlefield after the cannons stopped firing. It was the silence of peace. I went back to the kitchen and finished my lunch. It tasted like victory. I was at my sewing machine hemming a quinceañera dress for my neighbor's daughter when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Mendez, a professional female voice. This is Jennifer Caldwell from Marlborough School. I'm calling regarding Sophia Mendez's account. My heart clenched. Is Sophia all right? Oh, she's fine, the woman said quickly. This is regarding tuition. We've had a payment returned for insufficient funds, and we haven't been able to reach Mr. or Mrs. Mendez. Since you're listed as an emergency contact and previous payer, I wanted to reach out. I see, I said carefully. The fall semester balance is $15,000, Mrs. Caldwell continued. If it's not resolved by Friday, I'm afraid we'll have to ask Sophia to withdraw until the account is current. $15,000. I had it. In my savings account, the one I'd been pouring money into for them, there was still nearly $80,000. I could pay it right now. One phone call. Sophia wouldn't have to leave her school, wouldn't have to face the embarrassment. Mrs. Mendez, the woman prompted. I'm no longer handling the account, I heard myself say. You'll need to speak with Kyle and Grace Mendez directly. A pause. I see. Do you have another number where we might reach them? The numbers you have are current, I said. They're just choosing not to answer. I hung up and my hands were shaking. That was the hardest thing I'd done yet. Not cutting off Kyle and Grace, they deserved it, but potentially affecting Sophia. My sweet granddaughter, but even as the guilt tried to creep in, I thought about Grace's words. What kind of grandmother are you? I was the kind who wouldn't teach my granddaughter that love meant bankruptcy, that family meant slavery, that being a woman meant being used. The phone rang again immediately. Kyle this time. You told the school no, he shouted. They just called Grace. Sophia is going to be expelled. Then pay the tuition, I said calmly. With what we don't have $15,000 lying around. Then I suggest you figure it out. Sell something. Get a loan. Ask Grace's wealthy family in Mexico City, the ones she's always bragging about. They won't help, he said, and suddenly he sounded very young, very lost. Grace hasn't spoken to them in 3 years. We've been lying about them. They cut her off when she married me. I absorbed this. All those stories about Grace's family fortune, her connections, her safety net lies. She was just like Kyle, an adult child playing pretend with someone else's money. Then welcome to reality, mijo, I said quietly. This is what it feels like for the rest of us. Please, he whispered. Please, Mom, just this one thing. I'll figure everything else out, I swear, but please don't let Sophia suffer. You are letting Sophia suffer, I said. You and Grace. You built a life you couldn't afford, and now it's collapsing. I'm not doing this to you. You did it to yourselves. I hung up. The phone rang again. I turned it off. Rosa came by on Saturday morning with pan dulce from the bakery and gossip from her salon. You're the talk of East L.A., she said, settling into my kitchen chair with her coffee. Everyone's heard some version of the story. I grimaced. What are they saying? Depends who's talking. Rosa took a bite of concha. The old ladies at church half think you're a saint for teaching your son a lesson. Half think you're cruel for cutting him off. And the other half, there is no other half, Tanta. That's the whole thing? She grinned. But I think you're brave. And Marta from the salon, she's thinking about doing the same thing. Her daughter's been living rent-free in Marta's rental property for 4 years. I sipped my coffee. What about, have you heard anything about them, Kyle and Grace? Rosa's face turned serious. You sure you want to know? I nodded. The Mercedes got repossessed. I saw it myself. Tow truck came Tuesday morning. Grace was screaming in the street, making a scene. Rosa shook her head. And my client who works at the country club, she said they came to collect their things and Grace tried to act like they'd chosen to leave. Nobody believed her. I felt a small pang in my chest. but smaller than I expected. There's more, Rosa said carefully. Kyle got Uber to his office 3 days this week. People noticed. Partners are asking questions. He could buy a used car, I said. With what money their credit is destroyed, Hermana. I asked my cousin who works at Toyota. They tried to finance a Corolla. Denied. The satisfaction I should have felt didn't come. Instead, there was just a gray flatness. This was necessary, like chemotherapy. It hurt, but it was killing the cancer. And Sophia? I asked quietly. Rosa's expression softened. She's going to public school now. Washington Prep. Started Monday. My eyes burned. How is she? I don't know, Rosa admitted. But my friend's daughter is in her grade. She said Sophia keeps to herself. Quiet. I set down my coffee cup. My hands were trembling. You did the right thing, Rosa said firmly, reaching across the table to grip my hand. Escúchame. You did the right thing. Sophia will be fine. Kids are resilient. But she was learning terrible lessons in that house. Better she learns them now that actions have consequences, that you can't live beyond your means, that Grandma isn't a piggy bank. She must hate me. She'll understand when she's older. And if she doesn't, Rosa squeezed tighter, then you still did right by yourself. You can't set yourself on fire to keep others warm, mija. After Rosa left, I sat alone in my kitchen for a long time. The afternoon sun slanted through the window, illuminating dust motes in the air. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of children playing in the street. I thought about Sophia, about her first day at public school, walking through metal detectors instead of ivy-covered gates. No more lacrosse, no more catered lunches, no more networking with the children of tech executives and entertainment lawyers. Just regular school, like I'd gone to, like Kyle had gone to before I'd scrimped and saved to send him to that private high school that had started all of this. My phone turned back on that morning buzzed. A text, but not from Kyle or Grace. Unknown number, abuela. It's Sophia. I got your number from Tia Rosa. Can I come visit you after school on Monday? My breath caught. I stared at the message, reading it 3 times. I typed back with shaking hands. Of course, mi amor. Anytime. I'll make tamales. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Sophia, Mom and Dad don't know I'm texting you. They said not to. But I miss you. Tears streamed down my face. Me, I miss you too, corazón. Monday at 4, Sophia. Yes. Thank you, abuela. I clutched the phone to my chest and cried. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were relief. She didn't hate me. She wanted to see me. That was enough. The knock on my door was tentative, soft. When I opened it, Sophia stood on my porch in her new school uniform, plain navy blue and white, nothing like the plaid and cashmere of Marlborough. Her backpack looked heavy. Her eyes looked heavier. Hola, abuela, she said quietly. Hola, mi cielo. Come in. She stepped inside and immediately her eyes went to the kitchen. It smells like home. I'd made tamales de pollo her favorite, and horchata, and flan for dessert. The kitchen was warm and steamy, filled with the scents of corn masa and cinnamon. Sophia set her backpack down and just stood there looking lost. Sit, I said gently. Are you hungry? She nodded and sat at the table, the same chair she'd sat in since she was small enough to need a booster seat. I served her a plate, watched her take the first bite. It's good, she said, and her voice cracked. Sophia, they're selling the house. The words tumbled out in a rush. The bank said we have 90 days. Mom cries all the time. Dad won't talk about it. They fight every night after they think I'm asleep. And it's all because of... She stopped looking at me with those big dark eyes, so much like Kyle's, like Roberto's. Because of me, I finished softly. I don't understand, she whispered. Why did you do this? Did we do something wrong? I came around the table and knelt beside her chair, my old knees protesting, and took her hands. Listen to me, mija. You did nothing wrong. You are perfect, and I love you more than anything. Then why? Do you remember when you were little and you had that friend Brittany, the one who only played with you when she wanted to borrow your toys? Sophia nodded slowly. And I told you that wasn't a real friend, that real friends love you for who you are, not what you have. Yes. Your parents, I chose my words carefully. They forgot that lesson. They forgot to love me for who I am. They only loved what I could give them. And I let them. For too long. But they're going to lose everything, Sophia said, tears spilling over. We're going to lose the house, my school, everything. No, baby. They're going to lose the things they couldn't afford in the first place, the things they were borrowing from my future to pay for. I wiped her tears with my thumb. And you know what? You're going to be okay. Better than okay. How can you say that everything is falling apart? Because I said, you're going to learn something very important. You're going to learn that you don't need a big house or expensive clothes to be valuable. You're going to learn to work for what you want. You're going to learn that your worth isn't in what you own. Sophia was crying harder now. I'm scared, abuela. I know, mi amor. I know. I held her while she cried, stroking her hair like I used to when she was small and had nightmares. But I promise you this is going to make you stronger. You're going to be okay. When the tears finally stopped, she pulled back and looked at me. Mom says you're being selfish, that you're punishing us. What do you think? I asked. She was quiet for a long time, picking at her tamale. I think they got used to having everything easy. And now it's hard and they don't know what to do. She looked up at me. At my new school, there's this girl in my English class, Jasmine. She works at Starbucks after school to help her mom with rent. And she's really happy, abuela. Like genuinely happy. Happier than anyone at Marlboro ever seemed. I smiled. Maybe because she knows who she is without all the things. Yeah, Sophia took another bite. I kind of want to be like her. My heart swelled. Then you will be. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Sophia said, Can I ask you something? Anything. Do you still love Dad, even after everything? I thought about it. Really thought. Yes, I said finally. I love him, but I love myself too now, and that's what I forgot for too long. Sophia nodded slowly like she was filing that information away for later. Can I come visit you every week, even if Mom and Dad say no? Every week, I promised. This is your home too, always. She smiled, then the first real smile I'd seen. Will you teach me how to make tamales the real way like your mom taught you? I would love that. We spent the rest of the afternoon in the kitchen. I showed her how to spread the masa, how to fold the corn husks, how to tell when they were done. She was clumsy at first, her tamales lumpy and misshapen, but she laughed at her mistakes and her face was bright with concentration. This was what I'd been missing, this connection, this real, messy, imperfect love. At 6 o'clock, her phone buzzed. She checked it, and her face fell. Mom's here. I have to go. I walked her to the door. Through the window, I could see Grace's car, not the Mercedes, but an older Honda Civic like mine. Grace sat in the driver's seat, staring straight ahead, not looking at my house. Sophia hugged me tight. I love you, abuela. Thank you for not giving up on me. Never, I whispered into her hair. Never, mi cielo. She ran down the path and got into the car. As they pulled away, Sophia turned and waved through the back window. I waved back until they disappeared around the corner. Then I went inside, cleaned up the kitchen, and allowed myself to hope that maybe, just maybe, something good could come from all this pain. The call came on a Thursday night, not from Kyle, from a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Mendez, this is David Harrison, senior partner at Chen & Associates, Kyle's firm. My stomach dropped. Yes. I wanted to inform you personally we've had to let Kyle go. The world tilted. What? I'm afraid the situation has become untenable. He's missed several court appearances due to transportation issues. Clients have complained about his distraction, and there was an incident at a potential client meeting where he arrived in an Uber and the client assumed he'd lost his license for a DUI. A pause. That perception is deadly in our business. I see. He's a talented attorney, Harrison continued, but he built his career on a foundation of appearances and networking that he apparently can no longer maintain. I'm sorry. I know this must be difficult for you as his mother. When? I asked numbly. Effective immediately. He's clearing his office now. After I hung up, I sat very still. This was what I'd wanted, wasn't it, for them to face reality, to understand consequences. But Kyle losing his job, that was more than I'd anticipated. That was catastrophic. My phone rang again. Kyle this time. Mom, his voice was hollow, broken. Did Harrison call you? Yes. I lost my job. I lost everything. The house is being foreclosed. Grace is talking about moving back to Mexico to her parents, even though she swore she'd never. His voice cracked. Mom, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fix this. Every maternal instinct screamed at me to fix it, to write a check, to make the pain stop. But I didn't. You start over, I said quietly. You find a smaller firm. You rebuild. You live within your means. How? He shouted. How am I supposed to do that? I don't know how to live like that. Then you learn, I said. The way I learned when your father died and I had to figure out how to survive on my own. The way every person learns when life knocks them down. This is your fault, he screamed. If you hadn't... No, I cut him off, my voice hard. This is your fault. You built a house of cards with my money and now it's fallen. I didn't push it over. Gravity did. Silence on the line. Then quietly, I needed you. You needed my money, I corrected. You haven't needed me in years. That's not... When's my birthday, Kyle? Silence. What's my favorite color? What do I do on Sundays? What's the name of my best friend? I felt tears streaming down my face, but my voice stayed steady. You don't know. Because you never asked. Because I wasn't a person to you. I was a bank. Mom, when you're ready to know me, really know me, not just use me, call me again. Until then, I hope you find your way. I really do. Because I love you, mijo. But I can't save you anymore. You have to save yourself. I hung up on my son for the second time in my life. And then I cried. Huge, wrenching sobs that came from the deepest part of me. Because even though I'd done the right thing, it still hurt. Even though the blade was necessary, it still cut. Rosa found me an hour later. She had a key for emergencies. She held me while I cried, not saying anything, just being there. I broke him, I finally said. No, Rosa said firmly. You freed him. He was already broken, hermana. You just stopped hiding it. I was at the mercado buying vegetables when my phone buzzed. An email notification. A GoFundMe campaign. Help young family recover from elder financial abuse. My blood ran cold. I clicked on it. There was a photo, Grace, Kyle, and Sophia looking somber and exhausted. And beneath it, we never expected to find ourselves in this position. For years, we trusted Kyle's mother, Ariana, with our finances while we built our careers and raised our daughter. She had power of attorney and access to our accounts, helping us manage our money. But recently, she began showing signs of confusion and paranoia. When we tried to take back control of our finances for our own protection, she retaliated by draining our accounts and cutting us off completely. Now we're facing foreclosure. Our daughter has been forced to change schools, and we're struggling to afford basic necessities. We're not asking for handouts, just a chance to get back on our feet while we pursue legal action to protect ourselves and other potential victims of elder financial abuse. Anything helps. Please share. Goal $50,000. Raised so far $3,247 from 47 backers. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking with rage. Elder financial abuse. They were claiming I was the abuser, that I had dementia, that I had stolen from them. I scrolled through the comments. This is heartbreaking. Shared. Elder abuse is so common. Praying for your family. Have you contacted Adult Protective Services? But then further down, wait, didn't Grace just post about a Paris trip 3 months ago? I know this family. Something doesn't add up. If they were so broke, why was Grace getting Botox last month? I saw her at my clinic. The community was already turning skeptical, but the damage was done. They'd tried to publicly brand me as an abuser. I called Rosa. Have you seen it? I asked. The GoFundMe, yes. Half the salon is talking about it. She paused. And half of them are defending you. Maria posted receipts on Facebook, screenshots of Grace's Instagram showing designer bags and luxury trips, all dated within the last 6 months. She did what? You have an army, hermana. People who know you, who know your character. This isn't going to work the way Grace thinks it will. And Rosa was right. Over the next 24 hours, I watched the campaign implode. Former clients from my alteration shop posted testimonials about my honesty and skill. Rosa's salon crew shared stories about my generosity, the times I'd hemmed uniforms for free for people who couldn't afford it, the money I'd donated to the parish. Someone found Kyle's LinkedIn showing his $180,000 salary. Someone else found property records showing the Pasadena house was in my name, not theirs. The narrative flipped. By the second day, GoFundMe suspended the campaign for review. By the third, they shut it down and refunded all donations. Grace had to issue a public apology claiming miscommunication and stress. But the internet never forgets. And our community definitely didn't. The humiliation they'd tried to engineer for me had backfired spectacularly. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt tired and sad. Because this was my son, my daughter-in-law. They were so desperate, so lost, that they'd tried to destroy my reputation to save themselves. What had I done to them? What had I created? Or worse, what had I failed to teach them? Sophia came to visit on a Wednesday after school. But this time she wasn't alone. When I opened the door, there were tears streaming down her face. "Can I stay here, please? What happened?" "They won't stop fighting. Mom threw a plate at the wall last night. Dad hasn't come out of the bedroom for 2 days except to go to job interviews. And they keep blaming each other and blaming you, and I can't take it anymore." She collapsed into my arms, sobbing. I pulled her inside, closed the door, held her while she shook. Okay, mi amor, you can stay as long as you need." "They're going to be so mad," she said into my shoulder. "Let me handle that." I settled Sophia in the spare room, Kyle's old room, still with his high school trophies on the shelf, and made her chamomile tea with honey. Then I called Kyle. "Sophia is here," I said when he answered. "She's staying with me for a while." "You can't just take her." "I'm not taking her. She came to me. She's 16 years old, Kyle. She's old enough to choose where she wants to be when her home is a war zone." Silence. Then quietly, "It's that bad." "According to your daughter, yes." More silence. I could hear Grace in the background, her voice shrill. "Is that her? Is she trying to take Sophia now too?" "I'm not taking anyone," I said loud enough for Grace to hear. "But I'm offering Sophia a safe, quiet place to stay while you two figure out your lives. She can't be your emotional support person anymore. She's a child." "She's our child," Grace shrieked, grabbing the phone. "You don't get to decide." "Actually, I do, because I'm the one she called crying. I'm the one she trusts. And if you want to fight me on this, I will get a lawyer and we can discuss your fitness as parents in front of a judge. Do you want to do that? Because I have witnesses to your fights. I have documentation of your financial irresponsibility. I have screenshots of your GoFundMe lies." Grace went silent. "Sophia needs stability," I continued. "I'm offering it. When you two get your act together, when you have a stable home and stable emotions, we can discuss her coming back. Until then, she stays with me." Agreed. I heard muffled conversation. Then Kyle came back on. "Okay," he said, sounding defeated, "but we want to see her. Regularly." "Of course. She can visit you whenever she wants. This isn't about keeping you apart. It's about keeping her safe." After I hung up, I found Sophia in the kitchen making herself a snack. "You heard?" I asked. She nodded. "Thank you, Abuela. We're going to set some rules," I said. "You keep your grades up. You help around the house. You respect my space, and I'll respect yours. And most importantly, you stay in therapy. I'm going to find you a counselor to help you process all of this." "Okay. And Sophia, this isn't permanent. Your parents love you. They're just lost right now. When they find their way back, you'll have choices to make. But for now, you're safe here." She hugged me tight. "I know I'm safe here. I've always known." That night, I made her favorite dinner. We ate together at my small table, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like maybe I hadn't destroyed everything. Maybe I'd saved something after all. Kyle showed up on a Saturday morning. Alone. He wasn't driving. He'd walked, I could tell from the sweat on his forehead, the way his shirt stuck to his back. It was a 5-mile walk from the apartment they'd moved into in Echo Park. He stood on my porch, holding a paper bag, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. "Hola, mamá," he said in Spanish, the first time he'd used Spanish unprompted in years. "Hola, mijo." "I brought pan dulce," he said, holding up the bag. "From the bakery on Cesar Chavez. I walked past it, and I remembered you used to take me there when I was little. Before everything." I took the bag. The bread was still warm. "Come in." He nodded and followed me inside. He looked around the house like he was seeing it for the first time. At the worn furniture, the old photos on the walls, the modest simplicity of it all. "I got a job," he said quietly. Paralegal at a small firm in Boyle Heights. Immigration law. It pays $45,000 a year. That was a quarter of what he'd been making. That's good, mijo. It's humiliating, he said, and his voice cracked. I went to law school for 7 years. I was a partner, and now I'm basically a secretary. You're employed, I said. You're working honestly. There's no shame in that. He sat down at the kitchen table, put his head in his hands. I don't know how to do this, Mom. I don't know how to live on this kind of money. I don't know how to be this person. I sat down across from him. Then you learn, one day at a time. Grace is leaving, he said. She's going back to Mexico. Her parents said she can come back if she comes alone, without me. My heart ached for him. And you? I don't know. She says I'm the reason we're in this mess. That if I hadn't been so focused on impressing people, if I'd just been happy with less. He looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. She's right. Isn't she? Yes, I said gently. She is. He flinched, but didn't argue. What do I do now? You figure out who you are without the cars and the house and the title, I said. You figure out what actually matters. I don't even know where to start. I reached across the table and took his hand. You start by being honest, with yourself, with Sophia, with me. He looked at our joined hands. I'm sorry, Mama, for all of it, for using you, for being ashamed of you, for forgetting, his voice broke, for forgetting that you're my mother, not my bank. It was the apology I'd been waiting for. But I didn't cry. I didn't forgive him completely in that moment, because apologies are just words. Real change takes time. Thank you for saying that, I said. But words are easy, mijo. Show me. Show Sophia. Show yourself. He nodded. How? Be present. Be honest. Be humble. Learn to live within your means. Learn to find joy in simple things again. I squeezed his hand. And come to dinner next Tuesday. Just you and Sophia. No agenda. No asks. Just family. I'd like that, he whispered. After he left, I sat at my table with the still warm pan dulce and allowed myself the smallest flicker of hope. Maybe he could find his way back. Maybe we all could. Sophia settled into my house like rain settling into dry earth, slowly, carefully finding the cracks where she could seep in and take root. She had her routines now. Wake at 6:30. Help me make breakfast huevos rancheros on weekdays, chilaquiles on Saturdays. Walk to the bus stop for Washington Prep. Come home at 4. Do homework at the kitchen table while I worked on alterations. Dinner together. Then her room, Kyle's old room where she'd study or read or video chat with her friend Jasmine. Simple, uncomplicated, real. One evening, 2 months after she'd moved in, she looked up from her chemistry textbook and said, Abuela, I'm happier here than I ever was in Pasadena. I set down the dress I was hemming. Why do you think that is? She considered this, twirling her pencil. Because I don't have to pretend. At Marlboro, everyone was pretending their families were perfect, pretending money didn't matter while everything was about money, pretending to be friends while competing over everything. She looked at me. Here things are just true, even when the truth is hard, especially then. I smiled. This girl was going to be okay, better than okay. I got my report card, she said, pulling a paper from her backpack. I wanted to show you. 4 A's and 2 B's. At a public school where she'd started mid-semester, knowing no one navigating a completely different culture than Marlboro's manicured lawns and designer backpacks. I'm proud of you, mi cielo. Mr. Herrera, my English teacher, he asked if I wanted to join the newspaper. He said I write really well. Her eyes were bright. Can I? Of course. And Abuela Jasmine asked if I want to apply to work at the Starbucks with her. Just weekend mornings. I know I'm only 16, but they hire with work permits, and I thought... She trailed off, uncertain. I felt my throat tighten. My granddaughter wanting to work, wanting to earn, not expecting everything to be handed to her. I think that's wonderful, I said. We'll get you a work permit next week. She grinned a real, unguarded smile and went back to her homework. Later that night, after Sophia had gone to bed, I sat on my porch with tea looking at the stars barely visible through LA's light pollution. My phone buzzed. Kyle, can I come to dinner Tuesday? Like you said, I stared at the message for a long time. He'd been texting sporadically over the past weeks. Never asking for money, just checking in, asking about Sophia, telling me about his new job. Small things. Building something. Me. Yes. 6 p.m. Bring nothing but yourself. Kyle. Thank you, Mama. Kyle arrived at exactly 6 o'clock on foot again, carrying nothing but a small bouquet of flowers from the corner store. Carnations. $5 probably, but he'd thought to bring them. For you, he said awkwardly, holding them out. They're beautiful. Thank you, mijo. Sophia hugged him at the door. Hi, Dad. Hey, mija, you look good. Healthy. Abuela feeds me like I'm 3 people, Sophia said, laughing. I've gained 5 pounds of pure tamale weight. We sat at my small table, the 3 of us crowded around the formica surface that had witnessed so much of our family history. I'd made polo and mole rice beans, simple food, the kind Roberto and I used to eat every Sunday. Kyle ate slowly, savoring each bite. I forgot how good your mole is. You forgot a lot of things, I said, not unkindly. He nodded, accepting the rebuke. Grace left yesterday. Flew to Mexico City. Sophia's face flickered with pain, but she stayed quiet. How are you? I asked. Relieved mostly, and sad, and angry at myself for feeling relieved. He pushed rice around his plate. We said terrible things to each other at the end. Things I can't take back. Did you mean them? Sophia asked. Kyle looked at his daughter, really looked at her. Some of them, yeah. We brought out the worst in each other. We built this whole life on image and debt and keeping up appearances, and when it all collapsed, he shook his head. There wasn't anything real underneath, no foundation. Do you love her? Sophia's voice was small. I don't know anymore, mija. I think I loved the idea of her, the idea of the life we were building. But the real person, we never really knew each other. He reached across the table and took Sophia's hand. I'm sorry you had to see all of that. The fighting, the ugliness. You deserved better. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. I just wanted everyone to be happy. That was never your job, baby, Kyle said. That was mine, and I failed at it. I watched them, this father and daughter, finding their way through the wreckage, and something in my chest loosened. This was real. This was honest. This was the beginning of healing. After dinner, Sophia excused herself to do homework. Kyle helped me wash dishes, standing at my sink with a dish towel drying plates the way he used to when he was 10 years old. The apartment is tiny, he said quietly. Studio in Echo Park. 700 square feet. I sleep on a futon, but it's mine. I paid first and last month's rent with my paycheck. No help, no loans, just me. How does it feel? Terrifying and good. He set down a plate. Mom, I need to tell you something. I waited. I went to therapy. Started 2 weeks ago. The firm has an EAP, Employee Assistance Program. Free sessions. He wasn't looking at me, just staring at the soapy water. The therapist asked me to talk about my childhood, about Dad dying, about how you worked 2 jobs to send me to that private high school. Kyle, let me finish, please. He took a breath. I told her about how you were never home, how I was alone a lot, how I resented you for working so much. He finally looked at me and his eyes were red. And she asked me, where did you think the money came from for that school, for your clothes, for college? And I realized I blamed you for the very thing you were doing to give me opportunities. Tears slipped down my cheeks. You were a child, mijo. Children don't understand. But I'm not a child anymore. I'm 42 years old and I'm still blaming other people for my choices. His voice cracked. I blamed you for working too much. I blamed Grace for spending too much. I blamed the partners at the firm for having impossible standards. But the truth is, I did this. I chose to live beyond my means. I chose to be ashamed of where I came from. I chose to push you away because you reminded me of the poverty I was so desperate to escape. He was crying now, shoulders shaking. And the worst part? The thing I hate myself for most, I became exactly what I was trying not to be. I became dependent, weak, unable to survive on my own. You were poor, Mom, but you were never weak. You were the strongest person I knew, and I threw it all away trying to be something I'm not. I set down my dish towel and wrapped my arms around my son. He collapsed against me the way he used to when he was small and had nightmares. I held him while he cried, stroking his hair, murmuring comfort in Spanish. Ya pasó, mijo. Ya pasó. It's over now. When the tears finally stopped, he pulled back and wiped his face. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I see it now. I see what I did, what I became. I forgive you, I said quietly. He looked shocked. Just like that? No, not just like that. Because of this. I gestured to the kitchen, to the honest conversation, to his tears. Because you're doing the work. Because you're being real. Because you're showing up. I don't deserve... Stop. I cupped his face in my hands the way I used to when he was small. You deserve a chance to become the man your father would be proud of. The man I know you can be. But you have to choose it every day. You have to keep showing up, keep being honest, keep doing the hard work. He nodded against my palms. I will. I promise, Mama. I will. Sophia and I spent the weekend building the altar for Roberto. I showed her how to arrange the marigolds cempasúchil, their bright orange petals forming a path for the spirits, how to set out his favorite foods, mole pan de muerto tequila, how to place the photographs just so with candles flickering around them. Tell me about Abuelo, Sophia said as we worked. Real stories, not the ones Mom and Dad tell. I smiled. Your grandfather was a stubborn man, proud. He built houses with his hands and came home every night covered in dust and concrete. I placed his photograph in the center, Roberto at 30, grinning in his work clothes, strong and alive. But he was tender too. He cried when you were born. Held you for 3 hours straight, wouldn't let anyone else take you. Really? Really, and he loved to dance. Every Sunday after church he'd put on ranchera music and spin me around this kitchen until I was dizzy and laughing. Sophia touched the photograph gently. I wish I remembered him better. I was only 11 when he died. He's still with you, mija, in your stubbornness, in your strength, in the way you're learning to stand on your own feet. I handed her a candle. Light this one. Make a wish for him. She lit the candle, closed her eyes. I wished that he's proud of me, of who I'm becoming. He is, I said with certainty. I know he is. That evening Kyle texted. Kyle, can I come see the altar? Dad's altar me. Of course. Tomorrow night. Dia de los Muertos. Kyle, I'll be there. November 2nd. Dia de los Muertos. Kyle arrived at sunset walking as always. But this time he carried something, a small box wrapped in newspaper. Sophia opened the door. Dad, you came? Wouldn't miss it, mija. He hugged her, then looked at me standing behind her. Hola, mamá. Hola, hijo. Come in. He stepped inside and stopped staring at the altar. The candles cast dancing shadows on the walls. The marigolds filled the room with their distinctive scent. Roberto's photograph smiled out at us, forever young. Kyle approached slowly, reverently. He stood before the altar for a long moment, just looking. Then he knelt. Hi, Papa, he whispered. I'm sorry I haven't visited your grave. I'm sorry I forgot you. I'm sorry I forgot everything you taught me. I stood back, giving him space. Sophia slipped her hand into mine. Kyle placed the newspaper-wrapped box on the altar and carefully unwrapped it. Inside was the Tag Heuer watch, the one I'd bought him for his 38th birthday. The one that had survived the financial collapse because he couldn't bring himself to sell it. I wanted to give this back to Mom, he said, speaking to Roberto's photograph. But she said it was a gift, that it belonged to me. So I'm giving it to you, for safekeeping, until I become the man who deserves to wear it. He placed the watch carefully beside the photograph. I'm working as a paralegal now, making barely enough to survive, living in a studio apartment, taking the bus. His voice was steady, not ashamed. And you know what, I'm more at peace than I've been in 20 years, because I'm doing it honestly. I'm standing on my own feet. He touched the photograph frame. I'm going to make you proud again, Papa. I promise. It's going to take time, but I'm going to do it. I couldn't hold back anymore. I knelt beside him, put my arm around his shoulders. Sophia joined us on his other side. The three of us knelt before the altar in silence, honoring Roberto's memory and the new beginning we were building together. We ate dinner together at the altar the way tradition dictated, sharing food with the dead and the living. I'd made Roberto's favorites, and we told stories about him. Sophia laughed at tales of her grandfather's pranks, his terrible singing voice, his fierce love for his family. After Sophia went to bed, Kyle and I sat on the porch with coffee. The firm wants to sponsor me to retake the bar exam, he said. If I pass, they'll promote me to associate attorney, immigration law, helping people like Dad's construction workers get legal status. That's wonderful, mijo. It's a pay raise to 60,000. Still nothing like before, but he shrugged. It's enough, more than enough. Because you're learning to live differently. Yeah, he was quiet for a moment. I found an apartment near here, 2-bedroom. I want Sophia to have the choice to come stay with me sometimes. I know she's good with you, and I'm not trying to take her away, but you want to be her father again. Not just the man who failed her. Yes. I reached over and squeezed his hand. She'll like that. Having both of us. Having choices. Mom, I need to ask you something. He turned to face me. How did you do it after Dad died? How did you survive and raise me and not fall apart? I thought about those dark years. Working at the garment factory during the day, cleaning offices at night, coming home at midnight to a sleeping child, the exhaustion, the fear, the loneliness. I didn't have a choice, I said simply. You needed me, so I kept going. But wasn't there a moment when you just wanted to give up? Many moments, but I'd look at you, this little boy who'd lost his father, and I'd think, he deserves a mother who fights. So I fought. Kyle's eyes filled with tears again. And I repaid you by becoming the kind of person who took advantage of that fighting spirit. No, you repaid me by surviving, by getting educated, by building a career. You just lost your way for a while. I smiled at him. But you're finding it again. Will you tell me something honestly? He asked. Always. When I was at my worst, when I was using you, treating you like an ATM, did you ever stop loving me? I considered lying, offering easy comfort, but he deserved the truth. There were moments I didn't like you very much, I admitted. Moments I was angry and hurt and disappointed. But stop loving you. Never, not even for a second. You're my son, Kyle, my only child, my heart walking around outside my body. I could never stop loving you. He was crying again, but softer now. I don't know how to make it up to you. For the money, for the years, for everything. You can't make it up, and you don't have to. I turned to face him fully. What's done is done. The money is gone, and I've made peace with that. What I need from you now is not repayment. It's presence. Show up for Sophia. Show up for yourself. Show up for me, not with your wallet, but with your heart. I can do that, he said. I will do that. Then we're already healing. We sat in comfortable silence watching the neighborhood. A car passed. Someone's music played faintly, the sound of life continuing ordinary and real. There's something I've been working on, Kyle said. A budget, a plan. The therapist suggested it. He pulled out his phone and showed me a spreadsheet. Income, expenses, savings, goals. All modest, all realistic, all his own. I'm going to save for Sophia's college, he said. Not a lot, maybe $50 a month right now, but something. And I'm going to rebuild my credit. And in a few years, maybe I can buy a small house. Nothing fancy, just something stable. That's a good plan, mijo. And Mom? When I get back on my feet, I want to pay you back. Not all of it, I know I can't, but something. A little each month, as long as it takes. I started to protest, but he held up his hand. I need to, he said. Not because you're asking. Because I need to know I can. I need to prove to myself that I'm not that person anymore, the one who takes without giving back. I studied his face in the porch light. He looked older than his 42 years. Tired, but there was something in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Hope, determination, dignity. Okay, I said, but on one condition. Anything. You also save for yourself, for your future, for emergencies. I don't want you giving me money if it means you're struggling. Deal. He stood to leave and I walked him to the gate. Same time next Tuesday, he asked. Same time. He hugged me, a real hug, tight and meaningful. I love you, Mama. Thank you for not giving up on me. I could never give up on you. You're my son. I watched him walk down the street, hands in his pockets, head up. Not the broken man who'd shown up at my door 8 weeks ago. Someone different. Someone better. Someone finding his way home. 2 weeks later, Sophia came to me with tears in her eyes. Dad asked if I want to stay with him sometimes, in his new apartment. What did you say? I said I'd think about it. She twisted her hands together. Abuela, I love living here. I'm happy here. But I miss him too. Is that okay? Of course it's okay, mi amor. But if I stay with him sometimes, does that mean I'm choosing him over you? I pulled her into my arms. No, baby. It means you're choosing both of us. You have 2 homes now, 2 people who love you. That's not a burden, it's a blessing. What if he goes back to how he was before? What if he starts needing money again and I'm stuck in the middle? Then you come back here. You always have this room, this home, me. I held her face in my hands. But I don't think he's going back, Sophia. I think he's finally moving forward. She nodded slowly. I want to try. Split my time. A few nights a week with him, the rest here. Then that's what we'll do. That night I helped her pack a bag for her first stay at Kyle's apartment. She was nervous, chattering to cover her anxiety. What if it's awkward? What if we don't know what to talk about? Then you'll figure it out together, I assured her. That's what family does. When Kyle came to pick her up, I walked them both to his car, a used Honda Civic he'd bought for $3,000 cash. Reliable, modest, his. Take care of my girl, I said. Always, Kyle promised. I watched them drive away, and for the first time since this whole ordeal began, I felt true peace. My family was broken, but broken things can be mended. They might not look the same as before, the cracks will always show, but sometimes the mending makes them stronger. I was at the mall, something I rarely did, looking for Christmas gifts. I'd bought Sophia a laptop for her newspaper work. I'd bought Kyle a cookbook, Cocina Mexicana Traditional Recipes. And then I found myself in the women's department looking at a cashmere cardigan. Soft gray, simple and elegant. Beautiful. The price tag made me wince. $140. Old Ariana would have walked away, would have thought, that's too much, I don't need it, save the money. But I picked it up, felt the softness against my cheek, imagined myself wearing it on cool evenings wrapped in luxury I'd chosen for myself. I bought it. At home, I put it on immediately. It felt like a hug, like worthiness, like self-love. Sophia came home from school and stopped in the doorway. Abuela, that's beautiful. Is it new? Yes, I bought it for myself. It looks expensive. It was, and I deserved it, she grinned. You did. You really did. That Christmas was different from any we'd had before. No expensive gifts, no elaborate decorations. Just the 3 of us, Kyle, Sophia, and me in my small house making tamales together. Kyle's were still lumpy and misshapen. Sophia's were getting better. Mine were perfect from 40 years of practice. We laughed as we worked flour dusting our clothes, music, playing Villancicos traditional carols. Real and messy and absolutely perfect. This is the best Christmas I've ever had, Sophia said, and she meant it. Kyle looked around the small kitchen, so different from the grand house in Pasadena, and nodded. Mine too. After they left, I sat alone in my living room wearing my cashmere cardigan, looking at the small Christmas tree we'd decorated together. Dollar store ornaments and handmade decorations Sophia had crafted. Nothing expensive. Everything precious. I thought about the woman I'd been 6 months ago, standing on a Pasadena porch with pan dulce, being told I wasn't good enough. Being told to live more simply so they could live more grandly. I thought about the 147 payments I'd canceled, the $340,000 I'd spent trying to buy love, and I realized I had lived simply. I'd always lived simply. What I'd lost wasn't simplicity, it was dignity, self-respect, the knowledge of my own worth. But I'd found it again. My phone buzzed, a text from Kyle. Kyle, thank you for today, Mama. For teaching us what really matters. Te amo. Me te amo, mijo. Always. I set down my phone and picked up my knitting. I was making a scarf for myself. Thick wool and deep purple, my favorite color that Kyle had never bothered to learn until he'd asked last week. The fire in my hearth. Yes, I'd finally gotten the fireplace repaired with money I'd saved, burned warm and bright. I was sitting closest to the flame, and I was no longer afraid of taking up space in my own life. The sun was bright on the day of Sophia's 16th birthday party, her real one, not the elaborate quinceañera Grace had wanted to throw in Pasadena with 200 guests and a mariachi band they couldn't afford. This party was in my backyard. 30 people, Sophia's friends from Washington Prep neighbors, Rosa and the salon crew, Kyle's co-workers from the immigration law firm. There was a taco bar I'd prepared with Sophia's help, a playlist of music Sophia had curated mix of bondapop and hip-hop. Decorations she'd made herself with her friend Jasmine. Simple, joyful, real. Kyle stood at the grill flipping carne asada, laughing with one of his coworkers. He'd passed the bar exam 2 months ago. He was officially an attorney again, immigration law, helping families stay together. He made $70,000 now, lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment, drove his used Civic, and he was happy. Actually happy. Sophia moved through the party with confidence and grace, introducing her Marlboro life and her Washington prep life, blending her worlds without shame. She'd gotten into the journalism program at USC with a partial scholarship. She'd saved $3,000 from her Starbucks job. She was going to be okay. Better than okay. As the sun set and the party wound down, Kyle came to stand beside me. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For saving me. For saving all of us." I shook my head. "I didn't save you, mijo. You saved yourself. I just stopped enabling you to drown." He smiled. "Same thing." "No, very different thing." I looked at him, this man I'd raised who'd lost himself and who was finding his way back. "I'm proud of you, Kyle. Your father would be too." His eyes got misty. "I hope so." Sophia called out from across the yard, "Abuela, Dad, come take a picture." We joined her by the taco bar. She pulled us both close, holding her phone up for a selfie. "Say familia," she commanded. "Familia," we chorused. In the photo, we're all smiling, real smiles, unforced and genuine. Kyle's arm is around my shoulder. Sophia is between us, glowing with happiness. We look like what we are, a family that fell apart and put itself back together, stronger in the broken places. Later, after everyone had gone home and Sophia had gone to her dad's apartment for the night, I sat on my porch in my cashmere cardigan, slightly worn now from 6 months of love, and thought about the journey. 147 payments canceled. 1 son humbled. 1 granddaughter saved. 1 woman reclaimed. People in the neighborhood still talked about it. The woman who cut off her son. Some thought I was cruel. Some thought I was a hero. Most understood I was simply human doing what I needed to survive. Rosa said something last week that stuck with me. "Tú no les cerraste la puerta, les enseñaste dónde estaba la llave." You didn't close the door on them. You taught them where the key was. She was right. I hadn't abandoned them. I'd given them the chance to learn to open doors for themselves. My phone buzzed one last time that night. "Kyle made my first payment to you today. $200. It's not much, but it's honest. Thank you for letting me do this." I looked at the notification from my bank. $200 deposited. I could have refused it. Could have told him to keep it, save it, use it for himself. But I understood now that this wasn't about the money. It was about his dignity, his need to prove to himself most of all that he could give, not just take. "Me received it. I'm putting it in Sophia's college fund. So in a way, you're investing in your daughter's future." Kyle, perfect. That's exactly where it should go. I set down the phone and looked up at the stars, barely visible through LA's glow, but there nonetheless. "We did it, Roberto," I whispered to my husband somewhere in the cosmos. "We raised a good man. It just took him a little longer to figure it out." The wind rustled through my small garden, the one I'd finally had time to tend, now bursting with roses and herbs and vegetables. Everything I'd planted was growing, including me. I went inside my small house, my paid-off, modest, imperfect, beautiful house, and locked the door. Not to keep anyone out, but to keep myself safe. To protect the peace I'd fought so hard to find. On the counter sat a new batch of pan dulce I'd made that morning. This time not for anyone else. For me. I took a piece, poured myself tea, and settled into my favorite chair with a book. Outside, the neighborhood hummed with life. Inside, I hummed with contentment. I had learned the hardest lesson: you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot love others until you love yourself. You cannot give dignity until you claim your own. And I had claimed mine. Finally, completely, absolutely. I was no longer standing on someone else's porch with an offering they didn't want. I was sitting in my own home at my own table, feeding my own soul. And it was enough. I was enough. I had always been enough.